Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another fabulous episode of Shout Out Saturday here in the Thrive Tribe. I'm super excited about my guest today. We have known each other for a pretty long time. And so I just want to welcome you to the show. Welcome, Becky. I can't even speak this morning. Becky Gilkerson, welcome.
Thank you.
So, Becky, do you want to tell the audience how we kind of knew each other in two little lives? Two kind of separate places.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, it was in 1998 that I got hired. Was it 98? Yeah, I got hired out at Lucerne Valley Middle School, High School, and you were already there as a teacher. And so at that point, I was in the office. And so that was, and a lot of experiences together at that time. I remember Pals Retreat. I actually remember, and this is weird, you and I drove together to work the morning of 9/11. Is that bizarre that I remember that? Because it was so devastating.
Yeah.
And it we just happened to be carpooling that particular day, and just as it was unfolding. So, but
I remember that day so vividly, that 9/11, because I had East Coast channels and I was watching Good Morning America when it happened,
right,
live. And I was like, because I get up early. It was crazy. Yeah. Oh, craziness. And then you went to work somewhere else and we worked together again.
I was following you. And when I left, I've been at Lucerne for 10 years, and then I went down to the county office in San Bernardino, superintendent's office. And following that, I went to Hesperia and worked at Mojave, which is where you worked previously. And so I was just following you. And I think maybe when I was at the county office, you were over at Riverside County office. I don't know.
Oh, that could be. Weird. That could be. It's just a path, we're on the path. So Becky, I know you're retired now, but I know you're never retired because you're always going to do something. So tell us about the new business that you're in, or relatively new.
So right now I am helping other people find wellness, and through essential oils and through educating them on lifestyle and chemicals and toxins that are in our everyday products. And for me, that started when I got cancer. And so that was just life-changing, eye-opening, all of that. Right before my cancer surgery, I was able to go visit my family in Oregon, and I said, I want to go to the lavender farm. I don't know anything about oils, but I want to go. I feel like this is what we need to do leading into this surgery. So my husband and I went. It was actually his family. They educated us like crazy, hugs, kisses, all of that. Gave us lots of oils, how to use them, why, how calming and relaxing lavender is, massage oils. And I just put it on the back burner. Went through cancer. That's a year or two process. And then the right doors opened, and one of my great friends got into Young Living, and I'm like, oh, this is my bucket list. I need to explore this. I had no idea. It just broke wide open for me. It helped with so many health issues, and emotionally as well as physically. And so it just kind of naturally progressed into us using the oils and into helping others. And so that's kind of what I do now.
Well, and I love that you educate. So there's a little bit of echo reverb. And so I'm wondering if you can educate us. So first of all, kind of telling us what kinds of toxins in our everyday, because that would be really useful information. And then kind of just telling us about a few different oils and how they can help us for different things.
So one of early on when I first started, my eyes were open. There's a gal, sweet little gal, she's a pharmacist, lives in Georgia, and she's in our group, and she did a class, online class on toxins. And I was brand new, and I'm listening to this. And she said, open up your bathroom cabinets and pull out your lotions, pull out your sunscreens, pull out everything that you put on your body and your deodorants and all of that, and let's look at the labels. And so then she started looking at the ingredients and then would tell us, okay, this particular one is toxic, it's a carcinogen, it's not legal in this country, just in the US. And then we could, look that up and verify it. And by the time that she got done with that class, I was like, oh my gosh, no wonder I got cancer. And my mind was just blown. And so I started looking up more of this. Information is easy to get to. And realizing, wow, everything I do put on my body is in my bloodstream within a couple minutes, 20 minutes, every cell is impacted. And I think I just was under a mushroom. Like, I can put sunscreen on, I can put all these chemicals on, it doesn't matter. And so just realizing that, I'm like, oh, we need to change. Like, I thought we lived this healthy life. And so we started ditching products and replacing them with things that did not have chemicals. And sometimes that involved making them. And sometimes the Young Living has a ton of products that don't have chemicals, even a whole makeup line now. And so that it was the precursor. And now I turn around and point others to some of that same information. And help them research, is that a good product to use? How many chemicals? Is it carcinogen? Petroleum is in so much of our everyday products, makeups, and all of that. And it's one that releases formaldehyde, which is really not a healthy thing in our systems. So that's more the educational part that I kind of go through. We have a lot of resources as far as the oils, and I like to say I help people connect with those resources. Here's some resources, do your research. Do not go buy oils off the grocery store counter because they're adulterated. They've got chemicals in them. They were processed with chemicals. The ground has chemicals. Like, that's how they're the price they are. And so, and I'm like, that's not me talking. Go on and do your research, and just keep pointing them to different resources and all of that. So as far as the oils themselves, for instance, we make just a fun little, we do a lot of make and take classes, and we make things that you can use. Early on, we made this cooling spray. And it basically has peppermint and lavender in it. And I'm like, oh, this is a nice little cooling spray, and I can spray it. Well, then we went to Utah, and we hiked the Timpanogos caves, which was straight up a hill, straight up a mountain, a mile up. I got about halfway up and was done. You can't do that. You can't be done halfway up. There's no turning. I mean, you turn around, you're still going down the side of a cliff. So my husband's being my cheerleader, and I had that cooling spray in my backpack, and I thought, oh, well, I'm hot. So it was heat wave. Let me spray that. Little did I realize lavender is really good for calming and anxiety and all of that, which I was starting to have because I was on the side of a cliff, guardrails, you're just there. And the peppermint is not only cooling, it's energizing, and it's also the focus. So I could focus 10 more steps. The lavender was, I didn't know all this at the time. I was just spraying it on. Pretty soon it was, I held it the rest of the way up and was just constantly spraying it. And then afterwards I was like, oh, let's think about why that worked so phenomenally. And so we just use these oils constantly. like I said, peppermint's really good for focus, really good for energy. I use it when I work out, and very cooling. So it's great. Cooling if you need a little personal summer.
I just keep thinking too, going back to your comment about the sunscreen of, people putting the irony or sadness of people putting on sunscreen to protect themselves against cancer, but possibly getting cancer from the sunscreen they put on their body.
Right.
Yeah. That's
and in our medical world is that way too. It's like, take this particular medicine after cancer. Oh yeah, the side effects are, uterine cancer, but don't worry about that. And it's like, we're constantly bombarded, and we're not anti-medical world. We come alongside, and, but there's a lot of times, like I personally used to be at the doctor every 3 months, with infections, usually bladder infections, that sort of thing. And they're like, oh, you made it 3 months. And now if I feel something, anything coming on, I take a drop of oregano, put it in a capsule with some coconut oil or something, take it a couple times a day for a couple days, and it's gone. And so all those years of oregano oil, killing my gut with antibiotics. And that's not a secret. The antibiotics destroy all the good, enzymes and flora and all of that. Like, oh my gosh, so it's just amazing. And, last night I was sitting here, I had a class in my house, and one of the gals, and she's brand new, and she's like, I'm a caregiver for my dad, and he had this swollen ankle for weeks. He got to the point where he couldn't walk. Doctors couldn't do it. Oh, it'll eventually, your cankles and all that will eventually just go down. And so one night she called her friend and said, can I use oils? Like, what should I put on this? And they said, Panaway, which helps with pain, swelling, that sort of thing, and Copaiba, which also is really good for that. She put those 2 oils on. She said, the next morning I got up, and she said, it wasn't swollen. Like, it's been swollen for weeks on end. And she's like, he's walking on it. And she's like in tears. And she's like, wow. And we're all like, wow, because it doesn't always work overnight.
That's pretty impressive. I have a swollen thumb. I might need that
right?
on there. Yeah. Becky, what would you say is your passion, your purpose on the planet? What gets you to wake up in the morning? Your drive. I know. Well, I won't say anything else. What would you say that is?
Well, absolutely, my faith in God, my relationship with Jesus is absolutely my number one drive. And I want to be able to do that and share that with others, and not have to look around. Did I say the right thing? I said, and I loved all my years in the school district, but we were, what we could say and not say and all of that. Not that I didn't, but that's absolutely my drive. And I start every morning with quiet time during the summer outside, which I love. And just spending time with God, and that's, I have a women's ministry at church where we do a huge study, and so definitely that's my absolute drive.
Nice, thank you. What would you say that you love best about the Thrive Tribe, being part of the Thrive Tribe?
Even though I drug my feet on being interviewed, I have to say the interviews. And sometimes, some of the people I know, and that's kind of fun to come back and see them. But we all have stories. Every one of us has a story. Every one of us contributes. And going way back to my days of teaching the different personalities, it's like everyone is different and unique, and it's just kind of fun to hear what corner of the earth that you're, on and what you're doing. And so
I love the stories too, just the way it builds connection. And even if you don't agree with people or they have ideas that are way different, there's still so much more similarities than differences. And,
right.
I've seen that throughout. All right, so now it comes time where I have pulled some cards from my little happiness deck. And so I'm going to read a statement that has been shown to boost happiness, and then I'm going to ask you a question related to that statement. So the first one is to feel more content with life, create realistic goals and work diligently to attain them. That leads to happiness. The question is, what goal are you currently making progress with?
Several. And taking relationships deeper is always a goal of mine, in every aspect of my world, whether it's with the women's ministry team, or when I'm sitting down. My favorite thing is to sit down across the table from people and talk about the oils. I don't do as much online because I love seeing people's eyes and all of that, and face to face. Goals, definitely relationships as far as connecting. And because we believe in the oils so much, and seeing lives changed, people getting lives back, we just, our goals are to continue to, we ask God to open doors and to bring us people that their life's going to be better because they have these oils in their hands and resources and all of that. And so keep on keeping on.
Okay. The next statement says, happy people are more interested in social problems, do more volunteer work, and contribute more to charity. The question is, where would you volunteer if you had a free day tomorrow?
That is an amazing question. So currently my volunteer work, I guess, would be what I do with the women's ministry, because I head up that, and I have a team that I work with and kind of lead them through. So that's kind of where I'm at. However, Young Living has a huge foundation, and I am really intrigued by some of the things that they do. And I've gotten to speak with the foundation organizations one by one, and ask them questions and what's it like and whether it's in Africa or Uganda where they're dealing with malaria, or this other organization called Soul Hope where they're making shoes because all of the individuals have what they call jiggers, which are little things that get into your feet. All over the world, they have all of these organizations, and having just been to an event where I got to talk one-on-one with them. Are you there? Like, do you personally go there? I've been there for so many years, and now I'm back in the States, but I go back and forth. And just having the personal conversations with them, it's like, wow. Seeing a kit on the table that it costs $1, but it will treat malaria and test for malaria. And those kids that get malaria, and $1 is all it takes. And like other organizations, we've done it before. We have that roundup thing where you can, when you purchase something, you can round up, and it's like, for the first time ever, and I've always done that, it's like, okay, 78 cents, woo. But for the first time ever, I saw, wow, my 78 cents just almost bought a kit to save someone's life. And so I'm very intrigued. I mean, I can't fly to Uganda tomorrow on my day off. But one of the things I want to do is what they call a soul hope party. And you get a group together and everybody brings old jeans. They give you a pattern and you're cutting out shoes for these kids, and you send it in, and they take recycled tires and they make the soles for the shoes. And for the first time ever, they get these kids jigger free, one by one, pulling these out, and then they give them these shoes. And it's just, yeah.
I've heard of the Soho. There is a few schools in Bakersfield, in Kern High School District, who got together, and I want to say it was like 3 different high schools, but they got together to work on that project.
Right.
Soho. So you know what? I'm going to write myself a note to put the link to that so people can find out more about that. And also the links to all of your stuff will be in the comments as well. And anything else you can think of later that you want to add. Okay, last one of these. It says, although we might fear that support would hurt our self-esteem, the opposite is true. When are you willing to ask for help when you need it?
Always.
That's me too.
I have a lot of, in Young Living, we have a lot of resources. And sometimes it depends on what the help is. Sometimes I need a medical person. Hey, I know you can't legally give me advice, but can you give me suggestions that are more medically grounded to point this individual to? And, and I've got several nurses underneath me and several pharmacists over me. And so I'm surrounded by that. So I can reach out all the time. Emotionally, I reach out all the time. Ministry-wise, I'm always like, don't feel like I think it's just me. I am I'm a leader that leads when respected. And so I am not the leader that was born leader. We're going to get things done. We're going to do this and this and this. And so I'm really good leading, but a different style, more humble and humble is the wrong word because that makes it sound like the other leaders aren't. But just.
Well, I think there's something to be said for authentic leadership. I was just talking about that with a group yesterday, and willingness to be vulnerable, willingness to be who you are. You don't have to know all the answers, but you're willing to go find the answers, right? But I mean, right. And that's, I think that's a really important skill in leadership.
And I did that when I was teaching the high schoolers too. I taught computers. And so it was like, there's a good chance some of those high schoolers are going to know more in different areas. And it's like, sometimes it was like, oh, how'd you do that? And they'd teach me.
Absolutely. Okay, so one last question for you, and then you can ask me a question. And that is the question I ask everyone. If you could teach the world just one thing, and we know the world needs many lessons, but what is one lesson that you would want them to know from Becky?
Wow. That is, so I definitely would say faith in God is the absolute lesson. And our family's been through a lot of junk and trauma, and, and health-wise, cancer wasn't the first time I had been severely ill to where it was touch and go. And so it's just like life is full of ups and downs and obstacles. And I used to teach my high school kids that it's like, you're going to have roadblocks, guaranteed. What are you going to do? And for me, my faith in God is what gets me through. And it's what carries me. And that would be the most important message that I have.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, now comes the scary time for me, and that is if you have a question for me, I will do my best to answer it openly and honestly and authentically.
So I guess because we've known each other for so long, and you were a teacher at Lucerne when we met, and your journey has taken you to assistant principal and principal, and then ultimately seeking, well, I don't know if it's ultimately, but currently a doctor. What has driven you to make those choices and to pursue being a doctor? Like, really, what's your passion? What's your passion?
So that's an interesting question. And it's kind of twofolded. I'm going to ask you to do me a favor, since I'm going to be talking for a minute and there's echo. If you can mute your speaker, then it won't come back at me. Or, yeah. Okay. So let's see. My purpose in life from a very young age, I wouldn't have articulated it this way, but it truly was. I had more words for it, and we did this exercise at my last job where we had to narrow it down to 5 words. And so my purpose is influencing, inspiring, and igniting humans. That has always been my purpose in every job, from when I was the assistant manager at Contempo Casuals to working at a bank, working at Supercuts, working at a psychiatric hospital, becoming a teacher. Same purpose. My jobs came in at different things. I became a teacher because I was working at a psychiatric hospital and the owners embezzled all the money, and I didn't have a job, and I was living in Manhattan Beach. And my brother said, "Hey, come be a teacher in Lucerne." And I was like, okay. And so that's how I fell into that job. In that job, my mission was still the same, my purpose. I was going to influence these kids, I was going to inspire them, and I was going to kick their butt and ignite them to action. Like, they were going to go do stuff. As there was some, point in Lucerne where there were some uncomfortable things happening around me or whatever, that discomfort pushed me to look for another job. I really didn't want to be an assistant principal, but I knew that I had to get my admin credential to move to a different job, or I would, not be on the pay scale or whatever. Got in that job, and same thing. Did influence, inspire, and ignite. No desire to be a principal. And then in that job, I had, a couple great principals, and then, another one. And that discomfort there made me want to go find another job. Got a job as a principal, same thing, did that thing. And then same as being an educational consultant, and then starting my own business now. I think my purpose has always been the same. The job has just been different. As far as the doctorate, for years when I was a principal, my boss, my big boss, the associate superintendent, kept pushing me to get my doctorate. And I was like, I don't want to get my doctorate degree. I never want to be a superintendent. That's, to me, why people get a doctorate degree in education. I don't want to do that. And then I got a new job as a consultant, and my boss there kept saying, Joelle, I really think you should get your doctorate degree. And I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. And then one morning I woke up like a year later, and I was like, I think I want to get my doctorate degree. Literally, that's how it happened. And this is kind of how it happens in my life. And so that day I was like, I want to get my doctorate degree, and I think it needs to be from USC. I looked up, how to do it. I walked into my boss and I said, can you write me a letter of recommendation for USC? And I think I'm going to get my doctorate. And he's like, well, what other schools are you applying to? I'm like, none. If I don't get it, then it's not meant to be. I'm just going to apply to this one. And then I was on, and I don't know what the real reasoning, I just kind of followed that. But if I think about it now, it goes back to my purpose, influencing, inspiring, igniting. Some people, if they see a doctorate, then that might influence them more. I mean, to me, like on my professional website, I don't have doctor in the title. It just says Joelle Hood. But for some people, that doctorate is really important. And so if that enables me to influence more people and inspire more people and ignite more people to thrive and flourish and live a great life, then that's probably why. So you can unmute now. That's my rant over. My long story. So I think that's it. Well, on that note, Becky, it has been, that was a great question, by the way, because that was something I don't think about. Nobody's asked me that question. So
Oh, yay.
So thank you so much for being here. There's so much juicy information. I will be putting a lot of links in the comments. For the rest of you in the Thrive Tribe, please reach out to Becky. I'm going to put her Facebook group in there as well, which is okay, right? Is that all right?
Yeah, put the Facebook group in. They can request to join, and then I just have to go in and approve it.
Perfect. And please show the love, say a comment, say hello. And for the rest of you, please message me. We want to hear your story. I will hunt you down if you don't message me, right, Becky?
Right.
But I would love it if you just reach out to me too. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your Saturday, and I will see you soon in the Thrive Tribe. Peace.